In this session we going to learn about income under the head of salaries. Section 15 to Section 17. Before that, if you're watching my video without subscribing to my channel, do subscribe and like the video. It motivates us to upload more. This channel runs on without monetization. We don't earn any income. My only purpose, I opened this channel to share knowledge among students to score good marks. All I need is your support, so subscribe and like my video. Sub-Rule 3 of Rule 3. Valuation of benefit of provision of domestic servants. Sweeper, gardener, watchman, or a personal attendant. If servants are engaged by the employee and employer paid or reimbursed the employee for the wages of such servants, it will be perquisite in the hands of all employees. But if the domestic servants are engaged by the employer and facility of such servants is provided to the employee, it will be perquisite in the hands of specified employees only. The value of benefit to the employee or any member of his household resulting from the provision by the employer of the services of a sweeper, a gardener, a watchman, or a personal attendant, shall be the actual cost to the employer. The actual cost in such a case shall be the total amount of salary paid or payable by the employer or any other person on his behalf for such services, as reduced by any amount paid by the employee for such services. Sub-Rule 4 of Rule 3. Valuation of gas, electricity, or water supplied by employer. If gas, electricity, or water connections are taken by the employee and employer paid or reimbursed the employee for such expenses, it will be perquisite in the hands of all employees. But if the gas, electricity, or water connections are taken in the name of employer and facility of such supplies are provided to the employee, it will be perquisite in the hands of specified employees only. The value of benefit to the employee resulting from the provision of gas, electricity, or water supplied by the employer shall be determined as follow. First, if payment is made to agency supplying of gas, electricity, etc., value of perquisite, sum equal to the amount paid on that account by the employer to the agency supplying the gas, electric energy, or water. Second, if supply is made from resources owned by the employer, value of perquisite, manufacturing cost per unit incurred by the employer, where the employee is paying any amount in respect of such above facility, the amount so paid shall be deducted from the value of perquisite determined above. Gas, electricity, water allowance given to an employee is always fully chargeable to tax.
Free or concessional education facility. Sub-Rule 5 of Rule 3. If school fees of children of employee or any member of employee's household is paid or reimbursed by the employer on employee's behalf, it will be perquisite in the hands of all employees. But if the education facility is provided in the school maintained by the employer or in any school by reason of his being employment at free of cost or at concessional rate, it would be perquisite in the hands of specified employees only. The value of benefit to the employee resulting from the provision of free or concessional educational facility for any member of his household shall be determined as follow. Circumstance 1. If the educational institution is maintained and owned by the employer, then the value of perquisite should be cost of such education in a similar institution in or near the locality. However, there would be no perquisite if the cost of such education or the value of such benefit per child does not exceed Rs. 1,000 per month. Circumstance 2. If free educational facilities are allowed in any other educational institution by reason of his being in employment of that employer, then the value of perquisite should be cost of such education in a similar institution in or near the locality. However, there would be no perquisite if the cost of such education or the value of such benefit per child does not exceed Rs. 1,000 per month. Circumstance 3. In case of others, then the value of perquisite should be amount of expenditure incurred by the employer in that behalf. And lastly, where any amount is paid or recovered from the employee on that account, the value of benefit shall be reduced by the amount so paid or recovered. If the employee incurs the expenditure of school fees and the same is reimbursed by the employer, then the entire amount of reimbursement so made shall be fully taxable in the hands of all employees. Child includes stepchild as well as the adopted child of the employee. If cost of education exceeds Rs. 0.1,000 per month, then full amount is taxable. An alternate view possible is that only the sum in excess of Rs. 0.1,000 per month is taxable. The exemption of Rs. 1,000 per month is allowed only in case of education facility provided to the children of the employee and not in case of education facility provided to other household members. Valuation in respect of free transport. Sub-Rule 6 of Rule 3. The value of any benefit or amenity resulting from the provision by an employer who is engaged in the carriage of passengers or goods to any employee or to any member of his household for personal or private journey free of cost or at concessional fare. In any conveyance owned, leased, or made available by any other arrangement by such employer for the purpose of transport of passengers or goods, shall be taken to be the value at which such benefit or amenity is offered by such employer to the public, as reduced by the amount, if any, paid by or recovered from the employee for such benefit or amenity. However, there would be no such perquisite to the employees of an airline or the railways. Valuation in respect of shares and securities issued under ESOP. The value of any specified security or sweat equity shares allotted or transferred, directly or indirectly, by the employer or former employer, free of cost or at concessional rate to the assessee shall be taxable as perquisite. The value shall be the fair market value of such security or shares on the date on which the option is exercised by the assessee, as reduced by any amount actually paid by, or recovered from, the assessee. Fair market value for listed shares. Perquisite value of listed sweat equity shares allotted or transferred free of cost or at concessional rate shall be average of opening and closing price of shares listed on stock exchange on date of exercise of option less any amount recovered from the employee, if shares are listed on more than one recognized stock exchange. However, where on the date of exercising of the option, the share is listed on more than one recognized stock exchanges, the fair market value shall be the average of opening price and closing price of the share on the recognized stock exchange which records the highest volume of trading in the share. Deferment of perquisite tax on ESOP. Section 156 provides for deferment of perquisite tax liability, where the income of the assessee of any assessment year includes income of the nature specified in this section and such specified security or sweat equity shares referred to in the said clause are allotted or transferred directly or indirectly by the current employer, being an eligible start-up referred to in Section 80 IAC. The tax or interest on such income included in the notice of demand shall be payable by the assessee within 14 days after the expiry of 48 months from the end of the relevant assessment year, or from the date of the sale of such specified security or sweat equity share by the assessee, or from the date of the assessee ceasing to be the employee of the employer who allotted or transferred him such specified security or sweat equity share, whichever is the earliest. Valuation of other fringe benefits and amenities. The value of any other fringe benefit or amenity as may be prescribed would be included in the definition of perquisite and taxable in the hands of all employees. Accordingly, the following other fringe benefits or amenities are prescribed and the value thereof shall be determined in the manner provided hereunder. Interest-free or concessional loan sub Rule 7, 1, of Rule 3. The value of the benefit to the assessee resulting from the provision of interest-free or concessional loan for any purpose made available to the employee or any member of his household during the relevant previous year by the employer or any person on his behalf shall be determined as the sum equal to the interest computed at the rate charged per annum by the State Bank of India, as on the first day of the relevant previous year in respect of loans for the same purpose, advanced by it on the maximum outstanding monthly balance as reduced by the interest, if any, actually paid by him or any such member of his household. Maximum outstanding monthly balance means the aggregate outstanding balance for each loan as on the last day of each month. However, no value would be charged if such loans are made available for medical treatment in respect of prescribed diseases, like cancer, tuberculosis, etc., or where the amount of loans are not exceeding in the aggregate Rs. 0.20,000. Further, where the benefit relates to the loans made available for medical treatment referred to above, the exemption so provided shall not apply to so much of the loan as has been reimbursed to the employee under any medical insurance scheme. Traveling, touring, and accommodation sub Rule 7, 2, of Rule 3. If traveling, touring, accommodation etc. expenses are paid or reimbursed by employer, the value of traveling, touring, accommodation and any other expenses paid for or borne or reimbursed by the employer for any holiday availed of by the employee or any member of his household, other than leave travel concession or assistance, shall be determined as the sum equal to the amount of the expenditure incurred by such employer in that behalf. If traveling, touring, accommodation etc. facilities are maintained by employer to particular employees only, where such facility is maintained by the employer, and is not available uniformly to all employees, the value of benefit shall be taken to be the value at which such facilities are offered by other agencies to the public. Expenses on any member of household accompanying such employee on office tour, where the employee is on official tour and the expenses are incurred in respect of any member of his household accompanying him, the amount of expenditure so incurred shall also be a fringe benefit or amenity, if official tour is extended as vacation. However, where any official tour is extended as a vacation, the value of such fringe benefit shall be limited to the expenses incurred in relation to such extended period of stay or vacation. The amount so determined shall be reduced by the amount, if any, paid or recovered from the employee for such benefit or amenity. Free or concessional food and non-alcoholic beverages sub Rule 7, 3, of Rule 3. The value of free food and non-alcoholic beverages provided by the employer to an employee shall be the amount of expenditure incurred by such employer. The amount so determined shall be reduced by the amount, if any, paid or recovered from the employee for such benefit or amenity. However, the following would not be treated as a perquisite. Free food and non-alcoholic beverages provided by such employer during working hours at office or business premises or through paid vouchers which are not transferable and usable only at eating joints, to the extent the value thereof either case does not exceed 50 rupees per meal or taya or snacks provided during working hours, or free food and non-alcoholic beverages during working hours provided in a remote area or an offshore installation. Value of gift, voucher, or token in lieu of such gift sub Rule 7, 4, of Rule 3. The value of any gift, or voucher, or token in lieu of which such gift may be received by the employee or by member of his household on ceremonial occasions or otherwise from the employer shall be determined as the sum equal to the amount of such gift. However, if the value of such gift, voucher, or token, as the case may be, is below Rs. 5,000 in the aggregate during the previous year, the value of perquisite shall be taken as nil. Credit card expenses sub Rule 7, 5, of Rule 3. The amount of expenses including membership fees and annual fees incurred by the employee or Any member of his household, which is charged to a credit card, including any add-on card, provided by the employer, or otherwise, paid for or reimbursed by such employer shall be taken to be the value of perquisite chargeable to tax as reduced by the amount, if any, paid or recovered from the employee for such benefit or amenity. However, such expenses incurred wholly and exclusively for official purposes would not be treated as a perquisite if the following conditions are fulfilled. 1. Complete details in respect of such expenditure are maintained by the employer, which may, inter alia, include the date of expenditure and the nature of expenditure. 2. The employer gives a certificate for such expenditure to the effect that the same was incurred wholly and exclusively for the performance of official duties. Club expenditure sub Rule 7(6) of Rule 3. The value of benefit to the employee resulting from the payment or reimbursement by the employer of any expenditure incurred, including the amount of annual or periodical fee, in a club by him or by a member of his household shall be determined to be the actual amount of expenditure incurred or reimbursed by such employer on that account. The amount so determined shall be reduced by the amount, if any, paid or recovered from the employee for such benefit or amenity. However, where the employer has obtained corporate membership of the club and the facility is enjoyed by the employee or any member of his household, the value of perquisite shall not include the initial fee paid for acquiring such corporate membership. Further, if such expenditure is incurred wholly and exclusively for business purposes, it would not be treated as a perquisite provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1. Complete details in respect of such expenditure are maintained by the employer, which may, inter alia, include the date of expenditure, the nature of expenditure and its business expediency. 2. The employer gives a certificate for such expenditure to the effect that the same was incurred wholly and exclusively for the performance of official duties. There would be no perquisite for use of health club, sports, and similar facilities provided uniformly to all employees by the employer. Sub Rule 7(7) of Rule 3. Use of employer's movable assets. If the facility of usage of any movable asset, except laptop and computers, is provided by employer to employee or any member of his household, the taxable value shall be 10% per annum of the actual cost of asset, if owned by the employer, or actual amount of hire charges, if taken on hire by the employer. Also should be noted, where the employee is paying any amount in respect of such asset, the amount so paid shall be deducted from the value of perquisite determined above. Transfer of any movable asset. Sub Rule 7(8) of Rule 3. If any movable asset is transferred by the employer to employee, then, taxable value of this perquisite shall be computers and electronic items transferred. Value of perquisite depreciated value of asset depreciation is computed at 50% on written down value for each completed year of usage. Motor cars transferred. Value of perquisite depreciated value of asset depreciation is computed at 20% on written down value for each completed year of usage. Any other asset. Value of perquisite depreciated value of asset depreciation is computed at 10% on straight line method for each completed year of usage. Keep in MND that where the employee is paying any amount in respect of such asset, the amount so paid shall be deducted from the value of perquisite determined above. How it should to be calculated. Actual cost of the asset to the employer should be deducted with two items. They are depreciation for every completed year of usage by employer, the amount charged from the employee, other benefit or amenity sub Rule 7(9) of Rule 3. Residual head. The value of any other benefit or amenity, service, right, or privilege provided by the employer shall be determined on the basis of cost to the employer under an arm's length transaction as reduced by the employee's contribution, if any, However, there will be no taxable perquisite in respect of expenses on telephones including mobile phone actually incurred on behalf of the employee by the employer. That is, if an employer pays or reimburses telephone bills or mobile phone charges of employee, there will be no taxable perquisite.